Welcome to our regular meeting, the Clearlake City Council and Redevelopment Successor Agency on February 6, 2020 at 6:01 actually p.m. Madam Clerk, can you do the roll?
Councilmember Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Purdock.
Here.
Councilmember Overton.
Here.
Mayor Kramer.
Here.
And Vice Mayor Sluten is absent.
All right. Would you please stand for the pledge? Councilmember Harris, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Now we have the invocation. Pastor Kim Miller, please. Right here. Right here, Pastor Miller.
Shall we pray?
Father, first and foremost, I thank you for this time in this council. What a privilege and an honor it is to be able to be here with these people. And Lord, I'm reminded of what your word says, that let everyone be subject to the government authorities, for there is no authority except that which is given by God himself. The authority that exists have been established by you. For the one and authority is you, and we are servants for your good. And Lord, that you urge us then first and foremost to pray, intercession, thanksgiving to be made for all people, for kings and for those in authority, that we may live peacefully and quiet lives in a good manner with holiness. And so, Father, as we come before your throne and pray for this time, I ask, God, that you would give wisdom and understanding, impart upon each and every one of us to see your vision, to see your ways upon this land. Thank you for the servants, Lord, that you've given to lead and guide in the government, in the prosperity, in the hope of this great city. So I pray, Father, purpose, vision, and Lord, wisdom upon each and every one of us. May you give us ears to hear, and that we might hear what they have to say and what you have to say. Lord, we thank you for this time. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. You may be seated. First of all, I want to welcome back Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
Haven't seen you here, and at least in the chambers for a while.
Great to be back. Thanks.
See you back. Okay, meeting procedures. Well, number one, if there is any material, written material anyone wants to introduce into record, that item we requested that you provided our city clerk with a copy of it prior to the meeting. As clerk, have you received anything?
No, Honorable Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Moving right along, all items on the agenda will be open for public comment before the final action is taken. Citizens wishing to introduce written material into record at the public meeting on any item are requested to provide a copy of the written material to the city clerk prior to the meeting, which we haven't gotten, so that it may be distributed. Speakers must restrict comments to the item as it appears on the agenda and stay within a 3-minute time limit, as directed by the clock up here. And the mayor, me, has discretion of limiting the total discussion time for an item. As a courtesy to others, please turn off any cell phones and any other distracting devices. Okay, now for the adoption of the agenda, acting city manager White, is there any changes?
Mr. Mayor, we request to pull item number 1 and we'll reschedule for a later meeting.
All right, we'll pull item number 1. Everything else is good? So I would make a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'd like to make the motion to adopt the agenda with the provisions removing number 1.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? No, motion passes. Okay, moving on to item number 2. Our celebration of Black History Month, February 2020. And I'm going to read and present a proclamation to Mr. Meyer and sorry, you were, you were.
Lynette Kirkman.
Yeah. Anyway, if you, the two of you could come up to the podium, I'll read the proclamation. Okay. Whereas February 2020 in the city of Clearlake, California, the Lake County branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, excuse me, is officially celebrating Black History Month, which dates back to 1936. And Dr. Carter G. Woodson set aside a special period of time in February to recognize the heritage and achievements of Black Americans. And whereas, while the history of Black Americans is also the story of countless nameless heroes brought to our shores who endured lives of bondage and oppression, the deprivation of their civil rights and ravages of bigotry and racism, it is a history for which most of the chapters have yet to be written, as Black Americans contribute to the American promise. And whereas for generations, African Americans have strengthened our nation by urging reforms, overcoming obstacles, and breaking down barriers. And whereas African Americans like Martin Luther King Jr. reflect a proud legacy of courage and dedication that is helping guide our nation's success and prosperity. Visionary leaders, both national and local, like Elijah Cummings, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Rosa Parks, Megan Evers, Maya Angelou, Mary McLeod Bethune, Dorothy Myers, Bessie M. Bell, Johnny Black, James W. Black, Clarence Wright Sr., St. Elmo Mosby Jr., Roger W. Scioto, Hester L. Carter, Barbara Quiswitz, Lynette Kirkwood, Wendy Dalton, John Drummond, and Kenneth Bagsby possessed a clarity of purpose and were instrumental in exposing and addressing the issues that threatened our founding principles. And whereas the Lake County branch of the NAACP is dedicated to the principle of fostering civic, economic, and educational programs and social justice throughout the city of Clearlake, and is dedicated to encouraging reflections on the rich history and teaching of African Americans, and bearing witness to the progress, beauty, and achievements they have made throughout our community. And whereas it is fitting that we set aside this month as a special time as to acknowledge this important segment of our community, and now, therefore, be it proclaimed, the city of Clearlake encourages all citizens to join in celebrating the diversity and character of our community and highlighting the importance of sharing our culture, customs, and traditions with those around us. Dated this 6th day of February 2020 and signed by me, Mayor Russ Kramer. I know you always have a few words.
Well, I'll just do whatever you want to do. Thank you, members of the City Council. This is actually the 20th anniversary of the Black History Month proclamations here in the city of Clearlake. It dates back 20 years ago this year. So, we are proud to be able to thank you for this proclamation and the fact that this community has come a long way, and you continue to reach out to diversity because that's our biggest strength. I'd like to introduce members of the local chapter, NAACP's executive body. Hazel Dina, Secretary. Marshall Dina, Board Member. And Lynette Kirkwood, she's one of your community activists here in the community, local, Ms. Kirkwood. I was expecting some of the rest of the folks that was named on here to be here. But other than that, I want to thank you very much for this proclamation. And we continue to work together for a better community and a better society. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to public comment. This is the time for any member of the public to address the city council or on any matter not on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. Again, we would prefer that you complete a speaker card, but if you do have something, you can come on up. The Brown Act, with limited exceptions, doesn't allow council or staff to discuss issues brought forth under public comment. The council cannot take action on non-agenda items. Concerns may be referred to staff or placed on the next available agenda. Please note the comments from the public will also be taken on each agenda item. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. That said, is there anyone from the public that would like to get up and speak on any issue? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Mr. Acting City Manager, do we have any changes, or
No.
council, do you have any changes, or things that you'd like to have pulled from the consent agenda?
No, sir.
Our public, is there anything that they would like to have pulled from the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, I'll take a motion on the...
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Been a motion made by Council Member Harris and seconded by Council Member Purdock. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, moving right on along here. Item number 6, consideration of the first reading of amendment to the Clearlake Municipal Code, Section 9-1.4, the building code adoption by reference. Mr. Acting City Manager, I can just call you Chief White. How's that?
I'll turn it over to our city attorney, Ryan Jones.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, what we're doing here is adopting by reference these model ordinances that the state has already done. You can see there's a series of them, from building standards, plumbing, electrical, fire, mechanical. What we did is the last update was in 2016, so we adopted those sometime after that, probably 2017. Now here we are in 2020, they were all updated in 2019. It gives the code enforcement and building officials more tools to make sure buildings are up to the standard they need to be safe. And so we'd ask that the council hold a first reading tonight and push for a second reading at the next meeting to then adopt these ordinances.
Any questions from council? Any questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, I will bring it back to council for action.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance number 237-2020, read by title only, waive further reading and set for second reading and adoption at the February 20th meeting. An ordinance amending sections 9-1.4, subsections A and B of Chapter 9 of the Clearlake Municipal Code, adopting the 2019 California Building Standards Code by reference.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Harris and seconded by Councilman Purdock. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Wow. I think I might break your record.
Nope.
You did a bit of doing that 15 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. Item number 7.
I'll turn this
Go ahead, Chief White.
We'll turn this over to our new Public Works Director, Dale Goodman.
Mr. Mayor, council members, this amendment to the to chapter, I should have brought my glasses up, in chapter 8, section 5 of the municipal code has to do with limiting excavation to newly improved roads. Whether that involves a remove and replacement of the road or any kind of surface treatment, we want to limit excavation so that we can maintain those roads in good working order for as long as possible. Anytime you break into the surface of a new road, you immediately take years off of its useful life. And so we want to, if you had a chance to read through this, it specifies what kind of, or the time period, the moratorium that we will have on those roads depending on what the treatment has been on the road. A brand new road, we're calling for a 5-year moratorium. Now there will be exceptions that we will have to make from time to time, and the amendment also spells out what anyone who we give that exception to will have to do to repair that road and return it to the best possible surface that we can have. And this was written, produced by our city engineer. He did a really thorough job of researching, making sure that this was going to be a really good amendment for us. In addition to this, and it's not mentioned here, but what we will be doing as Public Works is we will be holding monthly coordinating meetings with all of the utilities. Representatives from the utilities, we've already invited them to attend the first meeting, which will be in March. And those meetings are so that they can understand what our schedule is like, and we can understand what things they need to do, and hopefully we can coordinate so that they won't need to break into our roads after we put new roads down. And so we want to be able to help each other as much as possible.
Thank you. Are there any questions, Councilman Purdock?
No question, just a comment. Thank you so much for doing this. Nothing aggravated me more than seeing a new road go in, only to 2 months later seeing someone cut it up, which compromises, allows water to get in, which undermines the road surface, and there you have failures. My father did construction for 40 years. We call them bird baths. You know, we're just putting a lot of bird baths out in the street. It was terrible. So thank you for doing this. We worked really hard to get Measure B on the ballot and then passed. So I'm looking forward to a day when we can enjoy the streets and roads of Clear Lake without banging and rattling our teeth loose. Thank you.
Any other comments from council? Questions? Public have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll bring it back.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion, unless there's any other comment.
Well, I'll just add my, I agree completely with what you said. I also hated to see cuts made in perfectly good asphalt right after it was paved. So I think it's a great new move, and thank you, and thank our city engineer for preparing this. So now I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance number 238-2020 and read it by title only. An ordinance amending chapter 8, section 5 of the pavement cuts and new pavement traffic code of Clear Lake Municipal Code.
Motion's made. A second. Motion has been made by Councilman Purdock and seconded by Councilman Harris. Do we need that? We don't need to call. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Chief White, we're back to you for any reports. New business.
So I don't want to steal any of the real city manager's thunder, so I'll let him report at the next meeting, but all is well. And I think the last time I was here, we were on generator power, I believe, during the power outages. So power's on, try to keep things good until he returns back.
Councilman Purdock,
Yes, sir.
do you have anything you'd like to report?
I would, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I wanted to report that we had I'll save that for last. We've conducted the pit count, point in time count. I concur with comments shared with me by Councilmember Overton that I wish we could increase it to a week so we'd have, I think, more time to be more accurate. But I'd simply like to report that from the count, we had 572 people counted. And for Mr. Fleur, our city manager, he asked that we add a question. We had question number 27. And did any of the Lake County fires cause you to be homeless? And the answer to that I thought was pretty remarkable. I wanted to share. The Mendocino complex fire, 38 people reported losing their homes in that, and they're now homeless. From the Valley Fire, 33 are still homeless. Sulphur Fire, which of course affected the city of Clearlake primarily, 18 are still homeless. 17 from the Clayton Fire, and the Rocky Jerusalem Fire, we have 6. The Pawnee Fire, 1. And other fires such as the Camp Fire and Santa Rosa Fire, we have 4 homeless in the county. It's significant. And so as we're working to try to help house those folks, oftentimes I think people are misunderstanding that there are other reasons for homelessness. And I think this is one that really hits home for us in Lake County, for our unsheltered neighbors. So with that, I'd also like to report, I did receive a couple of complaints about some intersections in the city and the safety of those intersections. And Chief White, I'm asking that maybe we can schedule a date for that traffic safety committee to begin looking at some of those issues. So hopefully we can come up with solutions. And then last night we held our chamber meeting. The Clearlake Chamber of Commerce, of course, helps serve not only the city limits of Clearlake, but also businesses around Lake County, primarily in the South County area, of course. And with that, I'd like to tag this into a request for an agenda item, if I can get consensus of my fellow council members, that we once again look at an amount of funding for the chamber. Years ago, there were funds provided that would help support the marketing and campaign, that campaign effort, as well as to support the staff salaries, so that the chamber office could be open at least 5 days a week, and also host and sponsor events such as bass tournaments and other events that we could bring to the city. Of course, the idea with the chamber is that we want to bring business opportunities and events to not just Clearlake, but the surrounding areas that will help our businesses to expand, grow, creates tax base, and is a good thing for all. So at our next meeting, I would hope to have a number for you where we can talk with Mr. Flora to go back in our records and see how the city used to support the chamber. At this time, it's my understanding that as the economic downturn in 2008 hit, obviously the budget cuts needed to be made, and this was one of those that was cut. I think our city can afford to once again provide some of that funding, and that's my request. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Burdock. I think that would be a good topic for a future agenda item. Just one question on the people count. This is countywide?
Yes, sir. 572.
That number from fires is just astounding to me. And really.
Yeah, those are folks who were interviewed and self-reported. Yeah, that was their cause.
Councilman Harris.
Mr. Mayor, other than a couple of meetings with constituents regarding the progress of the roads, condition of the road improvements, and a couple of issues brought up regarding the traveling speed on Lakeshore Drive and the lack of lit LED crossing indicators at some concerned crosswalks, which I would like to add to the agenda as asking for the city staff to look into a funding source for the ones that we don't have currently on the plan, and see what we can do to make the rest of the crosswalks on Lakeshore Drive, or at least the ones in the high frequented areas, match the one we have here in front of City Hall, so that it's much more visible at night, so people can actually see somebody trying to cross. Thank you.
Would that fall under the purview of the safety committee as well?
I think it probably would, but I just wanted to make mention of that specific item because I know even myself, I do a lot of walking, and just you can sit at a crosswalk just sit there as cars are just going right in front of you. They're just not stopping at the crosswalk, either because they just don't realize that they're going across the crosswalk, or they're just not stopping. So it's just something that probably needs to be addressed.
I agree with you. I had that problem on Lake Shore up by Foods, et cetera. That crosswalk was scary.
That's the worst one.
Yeah. Yeah, and by the way, the intersection there is another topic for understand, or I think, some conversation with regard to the new service station going
And that concludes my, thank you.
in. Okay, thank you, Councilman Harris. Councilman Overton.
Our safety committee needs to really meet, so. Well, personally, I'm not too happy with our count that we have with the homeless, just to add on to that, because I feel like afterwards, there's all these places we found out, even in Upper Lake, where we found a whole group of people that didn't get counted. So I'm really stressing that I have talked to them for several years about doing it for the whole week, and I'm really gonna push for that, because we're missing out. We're missing out on county, money, because these counts count for our grants, and when we have such a low count, when we know there's so many more out there, it hurts us to where we can't get the funding to do the housing that we need to do. So kind of disappointed in that. I came back just before the council meeting for our first Lake County Clean Water Program Management Council, finally getting that back up and going. So we can get our reporting and stuff done. I'm glad that that's going. And then just a couple announcements that I want to make. We had the Animal Coalition 14th Valentine's Day dance and dinner. And then we have the Senior Center Margarita Night. That's just $15. And you get a taco dinner and a margarita. So that's on the 21st. So just hopefully the community comes and supports both those organizations. They're both great organizations and helps our community. So I think that's it, really.
Thank you, Councilwoman Overton. A question on the head count. I don't see anything in relationship to, or maybe I missed it here, veterans.
Yes.
Down in the corner there.
Down in the corner. Oh, okay. Okay. I was at the first, I don't think it's the first ever, but the first in many years meeting of the reconstituted airport commission yesterday. There's a lot of things on that agenda, a lot of improvements that they want to make to the airport, and it looks like we're going to be having monthly meetings as we go forward. I've got a lot to learn about airport operations between now and then to get comfortable to have a good conversation. But if there's anyone that has anything that they want to tell me about what their feelings are in the airport, I'd love to hear that. So that is, you have a do-over. Before you do-over.
I just wanted to make sure that if you needed to mention about, we're still needing people to participate with the shade
I'm going
structure.
to.
Okay, I just want to make sure
The-
the shade structure finishes.
Yeah, no, I was leading up to that, but thank you. Councilman Harris is talking about our Austin Park. As you've noted, construction is coming along. We're doing a great job, and I'm surprised that you'll probably want to do a do-over on the concert series. I'll leave that one to you. But we're replacing or putting new benches, new tables, and new shade structures in various parts of the park. And I've been tasked with offering sponsorships for those benches. We've had a really good response on the bench, which is the least expensive, the $725. And the second, the table is $1,000. There's going to be 16 of the benches. There may be a few more because I haven't made a count lately to see how many I've got sold. But and there's going to be 8 tables. The benches and the tables are concrete structures, much like the ones that are out there now. And they'll have, the sponsor will be able to put a message of their choice, obviously with some limitations to that, up to 30 characters and spaces in 2 lines of it on the bench and on the table. And then the shade structures will actually have do we have pictures?
No.
Okay.
Gotta do what we're doing.
The shade structure will have a bronze or some sort of a metal plaque, and the shade structure is the most expensive at $6,800, so we're selling quarter sponsorships for that, $1,700 approximately, if you want to have your name or your organization's name on one of those items as a sponsor of it. So that's your chance on that. And now I'm going to go back to Councilman Harris so we can do his do-over, also to do with the park.
So as we all know, we have the park getting renovated right now. Part of the renovation of the park is going to be sort of a stage amphitheater type of a thing, a simple thing, but enough for us to have a concert series in our park, which has been kind of a dream of ours for a long time since we stopped having it, 10 years ago or something. I have been in communication with Bicoastal Media. We spent a lot of time together. The management of Bicoastal Media was quite smitten by the idea of the Clearlake Police Department reaching out to them, having a meeting with them about the security aspects of the concert series, and they're quite excited about the concert series coming up. They need participants and sponsorship for that. So if you're listening to this or watching this tonight, if you're interested in being part of that concert series and you want to get a hold of Bicoastal Media so that you can participate in that and bring those good things to our community.
Thank you, Councilman Harris. Councilman Purdock.
As you remember, Mr. Mayor, you assigned me to sit on the PEG board. I talked with our director of the PEG board, and he wanted to let me know that he's repaired the wiring on the podium and the podium mic, but he asked that we be very careful because sliding the podium around will break the wires and cause it to fail again.
Like I did.
That's why I cringed, and I wanted to mention it when I saw you do that. But anyway, for staff, so it is problematic once those wires get broken. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Purdock. Any other do-overs, add-ons?
Just Chief.
Chief White.
So real quick, I'm totally remiss in not capturing this, but our City Clerk Administrative Services Director, Melissa Swanson, has been hard at work for the last, 6 months or so to get us a new website. I know for all of us, the ability to communicate to the public is important, and having a professional image is also. So you can see up on the screen the new site. There's lots of images, big spaces, a lot more mobile friendly, easier to navigate around. So feel free to take a look and give us any feedback as it just went live.
It went live today.
Yeah, today.
Because I just looked at the website, it didn't look like that.
Yeah, it is a little bit different to find some stuff, but it's much more colorful and feels a lot more modern.
I like
And I think reflects
Nobody
what the
beats
city's
our
trying to do.
sunsets.
Yes,
Yeah.
welcome. Thank you very much.
The other part was I wanted to recognize the staff, particularly the finance department with Jill and her team. We've had auditors on site all week, and they've been shuffling papers and doing all kinds of stuff to make sure they have everything that they need while still carrying on the business of the city. So great job to them.
Thank you. And also, I think that City Clerk Administrative is celebrating her 14th, was it?
Yes.
Anniversary.
January 30th.
The
14
city?
years.
Congratulations on
She was
that.
such a
And just to
baby
say
when she came
again,
on.
Thank you.
we couldn't operate without you. So.
Thank you.
Awesome, yeah.
And then the last one was regards to the traffic safety committee. We had a department head meeting this morning. We actually talked about doing that. So the public works director is going to be setting up one of those. So you will hear it soon. It will happen.
Okay, anybody else? All right, I think we talked about some of the future agenda items in our comments. Chief, do you have any other future items?
No, we're all set.
Seeing none, we shall adjourn this meeting at 6:35.